In this video I've decided to talk about all my sessions that I've had on my membership lakes at Monk Lakes and how well I've done and how much I've struggled but also caught a few decent carp along the way. Let's go. I didn't really know much about these lakes at all. If it weren't for Joff, the director of Carp Basics, telling me all about how good the fishing was on here, especially on one lake. He fished it all the time and he'd done really well on it, and he was showing me all the pictures and telling me I should definitely join. And I kind of didn't know if I was going to join or not, but then I thought to myself, you know what, I might as well have a go. I always fish the match lakes here and sometimes on the main lake, so I thought I might as well come on and have a go. For my first session, I ended up going on the easier water, a lot more carp in it, and there was a good chance of me getting a bite. It was actually February, it was pretty cold. I think the temperature overnight was about 6 degrees. It did start to warm up a little bit during the day, but I never made it easy anyway. Wouldn't have made it easy at all. I thought that if I was lucky to catch one, I would have been happy. So I was joined by Joff, and we teamed up and fished on the far side of the lake, which they call the beach. There's not much features around there, but it is a good vantage point, and it was out of the wind because it was really windy on this session. And yeah, I thought, you know what, I was confident when I got there. It was sunny, it was windy, but it was lovely. It was good conditions. Once we got the rods out, Joff had a take within the first 10 minutes of being there, and he lost it, but it showed that things were working, and maybe we might have a few more carp than maybe one each, because I kind of thought that from the beginning. But then he had another take, and I think he lost that one as well. He wasn't having the greatest session, but he managed to get a few bites and to show that there was carp feeding. I think he ended up having 3 takes and they all came off as well. But you know, sometimes you have a bad luck session. I think I had a little one. I don't remember how big it was, maybe a couple of pounds, but it was a start. And then I remember casting out a solid bag right into this middle section of the lake, and I think it was in like a couple of minutes and it took off, and I had my first decent one from the lake. I think it ended up being about 16 pound, that one, maybe 16.5, I can't quite remember. But yeah, it was a lovely fish and a great way to start on these lakes. And I knew that they had lots of carp in one of them and the other one was a bit more trickier, but I wasn't sure how everything was going to go. But it was a brilliant start. It was nice to have someone that kind of knew the lake and could give me a bit more information about where the bars were and, you know, spots to try out. After that I came down for 2 more sessions. I did a 24-hour session and I did a day session. The 24-hour session I think managed to get 2, but it was a bit of a struggle. But at least I had 2 and everything was working still. Then after that I did a day session, which properly struggled on. But then I had another session planned, and I planned to do a 24-hour session, and it was literally probably a couple of weeks from being spring, and I thought this was the best time to be down on that lake, especially with the amount of carp that was on there. I knew there was a lot. I knew I could hit a big lot of carp, and hopefully I could get a few more on the bank. So on that 4th session when I came down, I knew the conditions were really good, but it was a couple of weeks before spring, so I knew that the temperature in the water would have rose a little bit more. Maybe there might be a bit more on the feed. I came down in the worst conditions though. I was expecting it to be a lot more better than it was. Really high winds and raining, and it was terrible, absolute terrible weather, but it was warm. And I thought that was going to kick them on, and I think I was there in the swim for about 10 minutes before I saw carp jumping out. And I thought, yes, this is going to be the session. On previous sessions, the only carp I actually caught was on solid bags, either fishing a 12mm ocean fruit yellow pop-up or a trimmed down pink ocean fruit pop-up, and I was doing bites on both, but the yellow one started doing the most bites, and I felt like I needed to be on that. So when I turned up for this session, I went for both solid bags on 2 of the rods and one on something a bit different to try and see if I could get something bigger. But I think in the end that one never did anything. I was fishing in the margins and expecting them to come in, and they didn't. But fishing out the distance out towards the bars on solid bags, I had 2 really quickly. I think I remember playing one and then the other one went, and I couldn't believe it. I had 2 straight away. One was a really nice scaly 21 pounder, and I think the other one was around about mid-double, which is pretty much average for that lake. And then it just kept getting better and better, and in the end I had a 20 pound common, 20 pound mirror, I think I had a 17 pounder common, and a load of other ones. I think I had, in the end, was about 6 bites. I did have a bit of a struggle overnight and first thing in the morning, but I managed to catch one little one to end, a little scaly one, which was brilliant. Could not believe it, and it was still in winter, and I absolutely smashed it. And as soon as I put that carp back, I had to bring the rods in, because I was filming my first Carp Basics video on that lake, so then I had to focus on that. Fishing was really good, and it continued as well. For Joff in his video, it was amazing. I think he managed to catch at least 6. If you want to check out the video, it's on Carp Basics YouTube channel. So after that, I decided I had to come on to the other lake. It's got a lot more bigger carp in it. I did one session and I managed to catch a 23, I think, which was really good and gave me a brilliant start. And then after that, I did one session back on the easier water just to try and get a few bites, because I kind of wanted to try and put together a few, but that session ended up being a really hard. I did manage to catch a 20 pound common, but again it was really hard, and I didn't catch as many as I thought. And then after that, on that lake, they started spawning, so I had to go and move back onto the other lake and just continue my fishing on there and try and catch a bigger carp. You know, that was my whole plan anyway, to move on after a couple of sessions, but I went back just because I thought there might be an opportunity to get quite a few bites, because about 24 hours before it started spawning, it was apparently the best it could ever be, and everyone was catching like 12 or 24 carp. I kind of missed that, really, completely missed it. I fished it before when it was starting to pick up, and yeah, I missed that opportunity to get a lot of carp on the bank on that lake, and that's what it can do. But I had to just continue on the other lake and fish for those bigger carp and just struggle a little bit, but at least I had a chance of catching something a lot bigger. So I started my session, and I knew it was going to be busy on the lake because the other one had spawned, so that lake was out and everyone was on one lake. It was really busy, but it started to get quiet, so then that's when my opportunity was to come down. And I did come down, and everyone I spoke to said, oh yeah, I've had 6, I've had 7, I've had 8, you know, etc, and I'm like, oh, this is good, I've picked the best time here. And I spoke to someone and he told me a few spots on this island towards the end swim, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go there then. Clearly the carp have been caught from there, and I've been told a few spots, which gave me a little advantage as well. I decided to put 2 on the island and 1 on the margin, and the one on the island went straight away with a really nice 20, which was brilliant. And I think that one actually came right in the middle of where I was talking about where I was actually fishing and what I was doing, and yeah, it came unexpectedly straight in the middle of the filming, which was brilliant as well, and a good start as well. At 22 within like a couple of minutes of the rod being out. It was absolutely crazy. So I put more bait out on the island and expected more. Now, nothing really happened too much on the island straight away, but my margin rod started going, and I remember having at least a 24 off that margin spot and another one. It was an absolutely crazy session. Everything I was doing and everywhere I was casting to, or everywhere I was fishing to, was working. And I was fishing with all nut wafters tipped off a little plastic corn. And the other one, the one that did the first one, was on the ocean fruit tormel yellow pop-up. And because I was doing so well on the other lake, that is the reason I brought it onto there, because I thought it's going to work. And I kept, you know, I kept up with things, and I kept checking rigs and re-changing baits. I wanted to make sure I had the fresh baits on, sharp hooks, because I knew it's going to be good. I already had 2 20s, and I think I had a mid-double. Things sort of quieted down, and nothing really happened too much after that. But first thing in the morning I had to take, it was literally just turning light as well, so it was really early in the morning, especially in spring. So it was about 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, something like that, just before it was turning light. I had to take, and it felt small. I didn't think much of it. until it was in front of me. Then it started moving a bit funny, and I thought, oh, here we go, it could be a big carp just come towards me. It could be, and it went in the net pretty quick. It didn't do much, it just swam up and down, stayed in deep, in close, and then popped up and I got it in the net. Yeah, and I realised it was actually a really decent sized carp, and I couldn't believe it. And that one turned out to be a PB common as well, 28.8 common, so I was well made up with that. I couldn't believe it, yeah, I could not believe it. It weren't that long before that where I actually beat my PB, and I actually beat that at Cottington as well, a 27 pound common. So yeah, only a couple of weeks after, and I had a new PB as well. But this one I didn't get soaked for because no one was around to bucket me, just like they were when I was fishing at Cottington with the little social up there, and yeah, I got bucketed, and yeah, I loved that, I did, in cold conditions. But yeah, so no one was around to do that, so I was happy with that as well. And I got a PB, new one, and I was really happy. And I thought, yes, this is things to come here, because if I can get a PB this quickly, I'm sure there's bigger carp to come. I think I ended up having a nice 21 pounder to end my session on that one. But apart from that, nothing else happened. But it was a good ending. About a week after that session, they started spawning on the lake. So clearly they were in that prime time before spawning to start feeding before. And I think that's why they had their biggest weight, and they were hungry as well, which made it easier. I just wish that I stayed on longer, and maybe I would have had an even bigger carp, but it doesn't matter too much. At least I had a PB, and that was brilliant. I did actually plan to come back down after that, but because of the spawning and everything, I had to wait a little while. When I came down eventually, where I managed to lose one and managed to land one, and it wasn't very big, so I wasn't overly enthusiastic about that, I suppose, and I wasn't sure if I was going to leave the lake and not come back. I tried to leave it a little while, but I did come back again for another session, and I did a 48 hours and had 4 bites, but they were all under 20 pound. Clearly they were spawned out. So after that I felt like I needed to give it a break, go and do some fishing somewhere else. I just started to do my park fishing as well, so I thought, oh, that's a brilliant opportunity to come away and just let them hopefully eventually start feeding and obviously put a bit more weight on. The next time I went down, it was middle of the summer and it was red hot, and it was absolutely boiling, 30 degrees temperatures, and yeah, it was pretty hot, especially as you're quite exposed here. There is a few trees around the lake, but overall it feels like you're fishing in a field, so yeah, you can get proper roasted. So that's the reason on this session I was wearing my big floppy hat that looked like a ranger or something like that, and I did look a bit daft, but it protected me from getting burnt, because I usually get burnt around the neck all the time, so it just gave me an extra chance of me not getting burnt. But it was going to be a difficult session, obviously, because it's red hot. You never know, they might either start spawning again, or they may just sit on the surface and not want to do anything. I tried surface fishing here and it's just not very good at all. They just don't get going. They eat a few, then they disappear, they never come back again. So I knew that was out. I did try zigs on this occasion as well, but zigs not very good on these lakes either. I don't know why, but I've never had a bite on zigs either. So on this session I did try and play around with things, but overall I just stuck to the bottom and kept going with it. And on the first 24 hours I stuck to my guns and stuck on the bottom, but I fished up against islands and margin, thought that that was going to be good, and nothing happened. And yeah, I saw carp on the surface jumping out and stuff like that, and I was like, no. But I did try zigs again, like I said, doesn't work, so what was the point of me trying? I kind of sort of gave up. I brought the rods in and I went for a walk, and I walked down the end of the lake, and suddenly there was about 40 carp in the corner, and I was like, what? You know, roughly 100 carp in here. So I thought, yes, I'm going to pack away and move in 30-degree weather. Yeah, let's do it. So I packed away and moved, and I was red hot, absolutely boiling, but I wouldn't stop. until I had a carp. So I managed to get the rods out in that swim as quick as I possibly could, and I had a take. I couldn't believe it. I'd been in the swim about an hour, first take. While I'm playing it, the other rod went off. I had two on at once. Absolutely crazy. And the first one I landed was a 24-pound mirror, which was an absolutely stunning mirror. Really dark, not many scales to it, but an interesting looking carp all the same, and it had a really big head on it as well. It looked much bigger in the net. But yeah, I was pleased with that, happy with it, and finally I caught something decent after a while, because I was struggling to catch anything above that 20-pound mark, and I managed to do it, and what a nice fish to do it with as well. And the other one was only about 10-pound, little common, but it showed things were working, and I finally was in the right swim. I did manage to actually catch another one the next morning. I did actually catch one more. It was a struggle, but I did catch, and that 24-pounder was really amazing as well, so I was happy with that. I did actually go on a few sessions after that as well. I did manage to get back on the other lake, and I did manage to catch a carp, but I managed to lose one. I did manage to lose one as well, but I did manage to catch on the other lake. But apart from that, things didn't really seem that interesting anymore about the lakes. You know, I did actually get a PB, but I could have caught bigger. There is definitely bigger carp in here, so I didn't know if I was going to stay on these waters or not. I was getting a little bit bored of them, I'll be honest, and I sort of came off of them and did some other fishing and other places. And eventually I did come back, but I didn't actually bring the camera with me. I didn't actually film. I just decided not to film and just go fishing and try and see if I can get something going. I decided to go on the easier water because a couple of weeks previously I actually filmed the Carp Basics Social on there, and it was so amazing to see all those carp out, and the amount of carp that were caught as well was brilliant. And I thought to myself, do you know what, I'm going to get out and do some fun fishing, go out, get a few carp, and forget the cameras, forget everything else. I'm just going to have a bit of fun. And I ended up on the lake by myself, and I managed to catch 19 and 18 and a load of other carp as well. Then I wish I brought the cameras with me, but I've done so many filming sessions down on these lakes, I thought might as well just do one for myself. And then after that I decided to do 3 nights on the lake I'm actually on now, which is the bigger carp lake. And yeah, I struggled on the first 48 hours but managed to turn it around, and I managed to catch 2 23-pound carp, a common and a mirror, and an 18-pound common. The reason why that wasn't actually filmed is because my camera decided to stop working, which was brilliant. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. About a week previously I was filming another Carp Basics video, and I left my camera out all night, and I think a lot of moisture got into it, and the camera wouldn't turn on. So when I came down for my session a week later, the camera wouldn't turn on at all, and that's the reason I never got filmed. But I did really well, and I managed to turn things around. I have got some pictures, but that is all. So I'm on a session right now as well. I'm doing a 24-hour session on here. I'm not expecting much, but if I do catch, I will show you as well, because I've got the camera working now, so I can now film. But yes, this is probably going to be one of my last sessions on here. I've got one more session planned, but it's going to be on the easier water, which has got a lot more carp in, because I'm actually filming in December. Now I'm actually filming the Christmas special, and Joff is going to be joining me for this one. It'd be nice to have someone else with me to the challenge, the Christmas challenge, which is always fun. My first Christmas challenge, I didn't manage to finish it. The second one, I didn't manage to catch anything. So hopefully having 2 people and on a lake absolutely filled with carp, we're going on the easier water with 300 carp in it. I'm sure we're going to catch a few. We're going to have a laugh anyway, and it's going to be fun. Next year I'm definitely going to be fishing some waters with some bigger carp, but they're going to be a lot harder. And some nice looking ones as well. I found the water might have some really nice stunning carp as well, like dark and big mirrored and stuff like that. So that's what I'm going to be targeting next year, something a bit more different. This year was all about catching. Next year is going to be a bit more of a struggle, but hopefully getting something bigger will be better. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.